Since it first emerged in October 2017, legions of QAnon conspiracy believers have been told to trust the plan, which basically means sit tight until the day President Donald Trump
I am the chosen one.
saves America with mass arrests, military tribunals and executions of his Satan-worshipping, child-trafficking deep state government enemies, who mostly happen to be Democrats and Hollywood A-listers.
I've heard these are people that love our country.
While awaiting Trump's Great Awakening, QAnon believers have been arrested for threatening elected officials, kidnappings, at least one murder, and the unforgettable storming of the US Capitol building on January 6th.
Trump is president, Christ is king.
We love you. You're very special.
But then, last Wednesday, the QAnon fantasy got a major reality check.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
In the hours after Joe Biden's inauguration, online platforms lit up with faith-shaken believers questioning the conspiracy, questioning Trump, and questioning the plan. A message from one of QAnon's most influential figures, Ron Watkins, declared the movement over.
We gave it our all. Now we need to keep our chins up and go back to our lives as best we're able.
With the movement clearly fractured, QAnon might fade away, but there are concerns disenfranchised believers might easily be converted to more militant, right-wing and white supremacist groups.
We want Trump! We want Trump!
So was the inauguration the beginning of the end for QAnon, or the start of something more dangerous?
Well, the University of Maryland's Dr. Jen Goldbeck specialises in how social media influences people and society, and she joins us now. Dr. Jen, Wednesday's inauguration was clearly a huge reality check for QAnon believers. So what happens when these conspiracy theory predictions don't actually come to pass?
It's sort of like when you have a doomsday cult who's preparing for the apocalypse and it doesn't happen. You're left sort of floating around without any real direction with what to do. And generally what we see in these cases is two things. One is that people move on to some other idea, and the other is that they move the goalposts and stick with the one that they had been on. We're seeing both of those things with QAnon now.
So what about Trump? I mean, he told these people that they're loved and special right up until the very end of his presidency. Is there a risk that behind the scenes right now, he's trying to keep his sway over them?
This is, I think, the biggest risk right now. Trump was deplatformed a couple days after the insurrection, and I think that was critical to avoiding further violence. And the question is, in the next weeks, is he going to say, focus on his personal financial problems, his legal troubles, which are extensive, and stay out of politics? Or is he going to try to really revitalize his base and hold rallies and start talking to them? If he does that, I think bad things can happen. But I think how much violence we see, or if this all kind of fades away, depends on what Trump decides to do next.
Or could they find another channel, Jen? Because we're hearing reports of members of white supremacist and other extremist groups being told to go out there and seek people whose faith in QAnon has been shaken as they're looking for something to latch onto, and that they might be vulnerable to being recruited. Is that a worry?
That's definitely happening. I spend a lot of time in these social media channels just observing, and we see these more extreme white supremacist groups coming onto the QAnon channels and saying, hey, this didn't work out for you, but we care about the same things that you do. And of course, there was a strong white supremacy undertone to a lot of QAnon anyway, and so it's a natural next step.
Well, you mentioned the shifting of goalposts, and the QAnon mythology is already changing. Online today, some people sharing that the real Joe Biden has already been arrested, that the Joe Biden that was inaugurated is a pro-Trump imposter. Is it actually possible to fight conspiracies like this? Because something tells me they ain't that keen on facts.
No, I mean, one that I've seen was that Trump and Biden both were put into surgery and their faces were swapped, like in the movie. What do you do when people are talking about that? It's really hard. And what we know from other conspiracy theory spaces is there's something that we call the boomerang effect that sometimes happens, where I'll give you some facts to counter the conspiracy theory you believe in, and that actually makes you dig in and believe it more. Like, I become someone who's not trusted then. So it's really hard to just give facts and have people say, oh, right, I was dumb, I'm going to, now believe the truth. That all sounds very reasonable, Doctor, but I'm not sure I like the look of that dog behind you. And is that part of the conspiracy? His name's Guacamole, and you'll have to go talk to him online. He does have his own social media page as well, and an awful lot of followers of his own.
I don't doubt. In fact, the whole setup looks conspiratorial to me. That mirror, the sun-like thing, that's got some Illuminati vibe about it. The octopus, are we being ensnared in some kind of trap? Who exactly are you?
The thing is, you're talking in exactly the way that we see from these conspiracy theorists. So Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. I was watching the Q message boards during Biden's inauguration, and when Trump was departing, he stepped onto a stage. There were 17 flags, and the message boards lit up. There's 17 flags. Well, that stands for Q. It's the 17th letter of the alphabet. They look for these sorts of patterns just like you did, and then they believe it's the truth.
He's very sharp-eyed, Dr. Jen. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts and your gorgeous dog.
Thank you.
Apart from the dog, the thing that's scary about all of that, I think, is that if people are thinking about leaving QAnon and they're attracted to the white supremacist groups, what's the alternative that's being presented to them? Like, that's really the thing that worries me. And it kind of suggests that we need a radical empathy, right? Where you're actually prepared, or everybody is prepared, to meet these people as serious people and treat them in a really serious way. And I just wonder whether we've got those political habits anymore.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing, we often discount people who follow these kind of groups. Oh, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that, and you think that that's going to make a difference. But the reality is there's a huge sense of pride in these people in thinking that they followed what they think is the right path. And so communicating in a way that they feel like they might have been misled rather than that they're an idiot, like that doesn't really work on people like that. And you have to communicate with them in a way that they feel like they can choose a better path as opposed to just, because otherwise they just get combative and they're like, well, no, now I'm really sticking to my point of view, you know?
Yeah. Biden's number one priority at the moment is obviously the pandemic and stemming those numbers, but engaging with those people and making them feel like at least part of what they're saying is being listened to is probably going to be his next biggest job.
Absolutely. A lot of people didn't vote for Biden and he has to remember that.
Yeah. I think he's very aware of it right now. Well, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment.